On February 8th, for the first time in 20 years, the CDC updated its developmental milestones for kids. The Learn the Signs, Act Early developmental monitoring program looks at when kids should be able to accomplish particular skills, such as walking, talking, and even laughing. However, I spoke with speech-language pathologists who are raising concerns, saying the new guidelines pushed back some benchmarks.
So this would be an example of an articulation test that we might give to a student.
Kara Nunn and Cassandra Natali are speech-language pathologists and clinical instructors at Binghamton University.
Speech-language pathology is a pretty wide field, so we look to assess, prevent, treat, and diagnose a whole bunch of different disorders and delays, such as speech sound disorders, language disorders, social communication disorders, cognitive communication disorders, voice fluency, and feeding and swallowing.
We look at speech milestones as kind of a guiding light for what we do. They're age norms for children when most children would accomplish or reach milestones. Children develop at all different age ranges and different paces. So when we're looking at milestone markers, we're not looking for 100% accuracy, but we are looking for an approximation or a majority of those skills to be maintained by a certain age range.
SLP's governing body, the American Speech Language Hearing Association, or ASHA, has said they are concerned that some of the changes in the milestone checklist will slow or inhibit early intervention. The CDC added 15 and 30 months to the milestone checklist, changed the average number of kids meeting those milestones from 50% to 75%, and moved some skills to older ages. Since 2004, the CDC has stated a 24-month-old should have a vocabulary of 50 words. Now, that milestone of 50 words has been moved to 30 months old.
It's not a huge span when people think of, oh, it's just a few months, but for child development, a lot of things really happen in a short time frame. So to move those to a different place may then lead parents to kind of wait to see and take a wait-and-see approach and delay some treatment that their child could have had earlier. And we're always going to advocate for as soon as you can get treatment to get it.
Speech therapists Crystal Wright and Megan Munson at Windsor Central Schools say while many of these milestones happen before kids step into the classroom, early intervention aids them in their efforts to assist students.
So by the time that we get children in preschool, if they've had early intervention, we generally may not even have to see that child. The developmental gaps are closing, as opposed to if they don't have any early intervention at all, it's much harder to close those gaps once they become kindergarten students.
Wright, who has been a speech therapist for 30 years, says the pandemic has also had its own impact. She says the number of students requiring her services has doubled.
I have seen, based on my caseload alone, this is the highest number I've had in pre-K in some years.
I also work with middle school students, and I can say that I've also seen an increase, especially in the middle school years. Not just children that are on my caseload already, but children that also moved into the district. There's just been, I think when I started, I maybe had 2 or 3 middle schoolers, and now I have about 14.
They attribute some of these increases to things like mask wearing, lack of interaction with peers, and differing access to telehealth therapies.
I'm seeing more articulation delays, speech sound production that definitely you need visual feedback for.
The younger kids, it's definitely a lot of language, a lot of receptive language, expressive language, answering WH questions, those types of things. Also in the middle school, a lot of it's pragmatic, social, learning how to advocate for yourself, learning how to see perspectives of other people, problem solving, those types of things we're seeing more and more of.
But Munson says when intervention does occur and students improve, they thrive in the classroom.
It's really great to see it on the kids' faces when they finally say a sound that they've been struggling with for a really long time, and they're so excited, and then they want to share it with their peers or with their parents or with their teachers, and you can really see their confidence grow.
Nunn says it is these language skills that will follow them for the rest of their lives.
To have strong language in those formative years, in those early preschool or early intervention years, leads to greater academic success in the future. So really when we look at early intervention and why is it important, it's the foundation and the building blocks for strong language throughout our lifespan.
Nunn and Natali say parents know their children best and should talk to their pediatrician if they have concerns. In the meantime, they say the best thing a parent can do is talk and read to their child.
The more you talk to them, the more you label what's going on, the more they're going to pick up on that. The quieter the home is, the less language input they're getting. So just engaging your children in a lot of fun, different learning ways is always going to be huge in terms of their development.
Since ASHA has voiced their concerns, the CDC released a statement saying they have not lowered the standards of early childhood development. They said in part, quote, "Learn the signs, act early milestone checklist is just one small part of what is recommended in terms of developmental tracking during early childhood. These are not developmental screening tools, nor are they standards or guidelines. They are communication tools that aim to promote developmental monitoring, encourage conversations between parents, doctors, and early childhood providers about child development, and increase developmental screening," end quote. Now, to take a look at all the documents discussed in this piece, head to our 12 News app or search for the story. It's right on WBNG.com.